Welcome to helpingtesters.com. In this session, we're going to learn about correlation. Let's look at what we're going to cover about. We're going to cover about what is correlation and various correlation functions available in the Loadrunner, various debugging process to handle with the correlations, and advanced correlation options, and we'll cover about some examples. First, let us understand what is correlation and how it would be handled in the Loadrunner. So if you look at here, so we are having the two entities here. One is the client and another one is the server. So the navigation for a flow will be goes like this. So the very first thing is client requests the server. We call it as request one, and for the request one we will be getting the response. So we are calling it as response one. Likewise, there will be a sequence of request and response flow that is been happening between the client and server. So we already know that what is the request. So request is nothing but whenever if client wants to send something to get some information from the server. Let's say we are trying to get the information for Google. So we'll type the information on your browser like google.com, and server will send back as a response. Let me show you that. Here I'm requesting google.com. So google.com is a request that we are sending it to the Google server, and whatever you see that as part of this Google search page, this comes as part of response. So here we made a request, Google server sent us back with a response. So let's look at what response it has shown us. So right click and go to the view page source. So this is whatever we are seeing, the whole entire thing. This code or this page source is the one which is sent by the Google as a response. So likewise, whatever the request, whenever you try to send for any server, it will send back with the appropriate response. So understanding the request response pattern is very important in the correlation. Let's go back. Here we have named various requests and response with an example. So let's say this is a navigation into a Gmail or any email application. So let's look at what are the basic steps it will do it. As a very first request, we will be launching the respective application URL, and server sends back us with the appropriate response. And after that, again we will be submitting our credentials, and we will be getting a right response. Either if it is a successful login or a failure login, we will get an appropriate page. Let's say we got a right response from the server. Okay, so whenever we get any right response, server will send us back with a session, okay, which is also part of your response. So for any further request, we will be using this session to request and to say server, okay, this is me, I'm the user, okay, which I have sent previously my submitted login credentials and I made a successful session. So based on your session, server will identify that, okay, this is so and so user, this session belongs to so and so users, is having a valid session with me, so I can take him to the requested page. Otherwise the server will again redirect back to the login page. Since in this condition, so we are already having a valid session. In this valid session, we are trying to request with a session as a creating a new email. So server will send us back, with the right page, with the right response, say, okay, we have created a new email for you. So here we are seeing some new thing here, like nothing but the session. So how they start request number 3 will know about this is the only the user which is already having the login. So based on this special response, based on the previous response, we took session and we carry forward this request to request 3 to make to tell the server that, okay, this is the user which have already having a session, and take this my session and validate me. Based on this session, server will able to identify the request. So this is whole thing automatically taken care whenever you try to navigate with browser. But whenever you're trying to log in or whenever trying to use a virtual user generator, your virtual user generator is not smart enough to set sessions automatically. If your request needs a session, you need to manually extract that session and you need to send it as part of request 3. Whatever extracting the session information from the response to is called as a correlation. Just to be in very simple English, so correlation capturing some values from the response and putting it forward as a request, or putting it as part of the request. So correlation will get and will be used in many situations. So here in the situation, handling the session is nothing but a correlation. So likewise, you may be seeing we will be seeing various examples to handle the correlation. So let's go back to the ViewGen, and there we'll see how to handle this. Here in this flow, we're just using the default demo application which comes with a Loadrunner. So there's nothing but a web tools. I will show you how to use web tools application and how to start it. So go to your once your Loadrunner setup is done, which we have already seen in our previous session how to set up the Loadrunner. So once your setup is successfully done, we'll be having a default app which will be installed into your system. So to launch that application, just you can go to the start and search for the web tools. So let me do that. So web tools is the one. So here if you look at, so web tools application, we can see that will be two. Then the very first one is the start H web tools 2, and second one is the HP web tools application. So this first one will open the application in your browser, second one will be useful to start the web tools application. So it's a small server. First we need to just click on the HP web tools. As soon as you clicked it, it will pop up a window. Then you just click on the HP web tools link. So the default username and password will be the Jojo is the username, and the password will be Bean, BEAN. So let's do login. I'm showing the flow what we are doing now with the ViewGen. Once your logging is done, just click on the itinerary. So by default, I'm having two itineraries, two bookings already there. So here my flow is just select one item and say click cancel, and after that just go and sign off. So this we are going to achieve with the virtual user generator now. So here we are going to show up how correlation will be helpful and how to handle the correlation here. Let me record the flow. Correlation 1, and just go on the record. So here you can give the our application URL, so which we just seen. Just say login, click continue. Okay, so it will launch the browser for recording. So therefore I'm just going and completing the scripting now. Recording is done now, so we can see the various steps which we have already created. So let's get into that. And as we just discussed in our previous session, as soon as your scripting is done, just run it once. So I'm just clicking it and replaying it once, and we will compare the screens one after the other. Now let's look at compare the, we have already done our replay. Now let's compare the screen by screen. Just to compare the screen by screen, just click on the snapshot pan. So here you can split will provide, it will provide recorded and replay screens side by side. So now we got the side by side screenshot comparison. So on the right side we just can select the replay. So let's take a look at it. Okay, it is not providing, so let's rerun it. So since your replay screenshot is not running up, let me replay it again. Now our replay is completed. So now we can go to the snapshot pan. Just let me click on it. So click on the page view on either side. See, page by page we can compare it. So this is a recorded response and this is a replay response. Let's go back and check for the second screen. See here, if you look at the recorded screen has got for the second request, we got the response as a welcome Jojo and blah blah blah. But whereas for the replay response, as we just did, it doesn't get the appropriate page. It means we does not have a valid session with the request. So here if you look at, it is also showing like you have reached a page incorrectly, probably bad session value, please use link. It means it is sending a incorrect response, says your session doesn't handled properly. So this is the way just we can compare page by page, and we can compare page by page. Let's look at, so the third request we got another response on the right side for the replay and the sign off. Anyhow, we got some pages been missed on the recorded, so anyhow we don't need to worry about the sign off. So but here one important step, let's take the second request, submit login. Here in the submit login it says you have reached the incorrect parameters. Okay, so this is the one of the way like we can verify whether your replay has been successful or not. Let's look at what we need to do, correlate. So in order to do correlation successful, as a initial steps we must record the same flow at least 2 times to make your script, or to identify which particular part of the script that you need to correlate. Let's do the second time recording and make sure that you are doing it for 2 times. If you want to check which are things are changing as part of your request, it is very helpful. If you are starting with the Loadrunner, you are very much familiar with the Loadrunner already, so you don't need to go and record multiple times to compare. So now let me do other time. So this is the correlation one. Let me do it, let me re-record another script. It is nothing but the correlation 2. So I'm just creating the new script. New script, nothing but correlation 2. So let me complete the recording for the correlation 2 script. Our second script recording is done. So as soon as your script recording is done for the second time, you just go and compare these two scripts. By default, Loadrunner gives a comparison tool which already exists. So let me show you how you can do that. So I'm selecting the script 1 as the first one to compare, and the script 2 action. Just we will be comparing action to action so that it will show up the differences that we have. So let me do that. So to do comparison, just go to the tools, compare, and if you have already visited the script 2, so it will show up which you need to select here, which file to compare. Okay, sometimes selecting the file to compare doesn't work. In that case, just you can click an external file to compare. So there from it will pop up a window, and it will show up where is your script. You need to select the where is your script. Just you need to navigate, see, and the scripts, and if you want to compare with the correlation to script and action.c. So we just selected two scripts. See here, it has shown left side is your script 1 and right side is your script 2, so which we just recorded. So it is showing something highlighted in yellow color, so it is nothing but the differences between the two files. So let's look at line by line. The very first one is a highlighted, an empty line. Looks like there is some extra space, but we are not going to worry about it. So let's compare the request one. So do the request have one having any highlights? No. Now let's go to the second request. See here in the second request, it is highlighting something at the user session. Means the user session value has been changed. Here if you look at closely, see user session value has got 123230 dot 8 x some xxx. So here if you take on the right side, so this value has got a different value. After dot it has got some different value. So using the win merge tool, that we can show differences, and also there are few other things that it has different values like login x and login y on the right side. This is the way how we compare the one script with each other to show the differences.